The Boys as a TV show is something that I vehemently hate. I hate pretty much everything that decides it's going to take the classic superhero, optimistic story of good versus evil and turning it on its head because we're edgy and mature. Me. It's annoying. It's pathetic, and it's a stupid excuse to get gore porn involved in everything that you're doing with regards to a superhero TV show. It's like, what happens if Superman's actually evil? What an original and unique idea. Yes, this is amazing. What happens if we turn Batman into a sexual deviant pervert who does all these evil things and likes to rape people? Oh, what brilliant storytelling we have. Yes. What happens if we make Spider-Man a cuck? Now wait, Marvel already did that. Nevertheless, The Boys, apparently, the TV show, has crossed a line that even woke people are in despise of. The Boys has always been, I'm going to read from the article now from Forbes, The Boys has always been a show determined to shock and disgust its audience, and it's no wonder that they keep pushing the proverbial envelope. I'm no prude, but I'm often plenty grossed out by this show. Though in the past, that's mostly been a good kind of grossed out, meaning that it's meant like I guess this guy means it's like a good story that tells that this is something really, really important that's happening, and this violence and this grossness is supposed to happen. But I've seen some stuff from the show, and the grossing out has never been in a good way. It's literally just been for the excuse to see people's heads get exploded in garbage like that. This guy says that it's been funny for the most part, though early on in the series, Starlight, Erin Moriarty, is sexually assaulted by the superhero The Deep. That seems deeply disturbing, and it was supposed to be. It was a tough scene, but it was here for a good reason. Starlight got her first glimpse at how vile the Seven truly were, though not the last. Soon, she'd realize that even the Golden Boy, Homelander, was a villain. And Homelander is the Superman workaround where they make him the evil guy, because of course they gotta make Superman evil. In this week's episode of The Boys, however, things are taken too far and not in a good way. There's shock value and then there's shock value. Season 4, Episode 6, titled Dirty Business, is only shocking in its lack of empathy for victims of sexual assault. Spoilers ahead. Alright, it's odd because last week, the first time this season, I genuinely thought to myself, this is finally getting good. The episode had a lot to love, from flying soup sheep to a hilarious parody of Disney Marvel Cinematic Universe, Get Woke, Get Yoked, is one of the funniest and most absurd things this show has done. And the ridiculous woke product placement in that episode is classic The Boys. But it all came crashing down in Episode 6 when Hughie, Jack Quaid, learns that saying never meet your heroes the hard way, the same way that Starlight did back in Season 1. This time, however, the sexual assault is tackled with all the nuance of a freight train crashing into a brick wall. I would replace the claim brick wall with a school bus full of children. My colleague Paul Tassi has already detailed why the scene is so messed up, so I'll just direct you to his synopsis and critique. I want to talk about the authorial intent, which makes it all so much worse. As far as I could tell, watching the scene in its aftermath, The Boys was playing Hughie's suffering for laughs. I was a bit mollified by his emotional breakdown after the fact, but it turns out that I was wrong. Showrunner Eric Kripke called the scene hilarious in an interview with Variety. The interviewer asked the following question. Now, for those of you who don't know, Hughie, the main character of the show, who is also probably one of the most inconsistent characters from what I've seen, got sexually assaulted. He was strapped down to a table with his gloves and his feet open and available to be seen by everyone. Earlier in this sequence of events, he sat down on a chocolate cake and farted into it because apparently that's something that people find sexy. I don't know why. And in the midst of this being strapped down to a table and molested by somebody who was tickling his feet, he couldn't find his safe word, which is something that the show asked him to know about, right? So he's guessing his safe word as he's being molested. He's guessing his safe word and failing while he's being molested. And this person who's molesting him gets off on it, evidently, and further molests him. And the showrunner, Eric Kripke, who is an avid leftist, just laughs it off and says, yeah, it's funny. The interviewer asked the following question, which is one I would have asked. Let's start with Tech Knight's sex dungeon. Where did the idea come for it, and why bring Hughie into this situation now, kicking him when he's down by having him sexually assaulted by his childhood hero after his dad just died? This is Eric Kripke's reply in full. Well, that's a dark way to look at it. We view it as hilarious. Hilarious. So he's sexually assaulted and molested by his childhood hero after his dad has just died, and he says, oh, it's just a funny little thing that we did. We thought it was cute. We thought it was adorable. Obviously, Tech Knight is our version of Batman, and we wanted to really play around with that trope. Batman's fascist underpinnings as a really wealthy dude who hunts poor people and then profits off the incarceration. So that was one Tech Knight was already set up to be a freak. Wait a second. When has Batman been portrayed as a fascist? Oh yeah, that's right, in freaking Blue Beetle. Modern day people are railing against Batman because he's a wealthy white guy who fights criminals. And Eric Kripke looks at Batman as a fascist who hunts poor people. I'm sorry, do you know what some of his most popular villains are? You've got the Court of Owls, which is a secret organization of extremely wealthy people who run things in the underground of Gotham's criminal organization. You've got Oswald Cobblepot, a wealthy individual who lost his fortune, given fairly well. Lost his fortune, okay, I'll give you that one, but he's still a madman who tries to kill people in penguin themes. You have Catwoman, who, although she is portrayed as poor, is a master jewel thief who has probably a lot more money to her exchange, and in most recent comic book storylines, she is one of the queens of Gotham, who has struck a deal with criminals and is living in the limelight. You have Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul, depending on how you pronounce it, who is a immortal, wealthy individual intent on killing everyone because of his environmentalist campaign. Yeah, that's right. An environmentalist wants to kill everyone. That's the motivation behind Ra's al Ghul. I like to say Raj. I don't know about you, but I like to say Raj. Joker obviously has massive amounts of funding for the kinds of things that he's able to pull off. He's either taking it from people, or he has a way of making money on his own. Mr. Freeze was an acclaimed scientist who had a terrible accident. Harvey Dent was a prosecutor and a district attorney. Two-Face, and Clayface. Sure, he was a middling actor at the time of his conversion into Two-Face, but he lived in the limelight and was wealthy for a long time before that. The point being, there are plenty of wealthy antagonists within the Batman universe. The most notable antagonist that's not wealthy is probably Bane, and even then, he can get money by force. Batman's antagonists were never meant to be some poor, low-down, salt of the earth, poor people who Batman just hunts down. Criminals are criminals regardless of their ability to fund their criminal behavior. And I don't remember the last time that I saw Batman profit off of the incarceration of people. In fact, Batman loses money every single time he goes out to fight crime because he's wasting cash on the endless endeavor of fighting crime till the day that he dies, which he knows will likely come when he reaches a certain age when he's no longer at his peak physical performance and gets taken out by some lucky punk with a gun. Batman is not the person that Eric Kripke has painted him as, and the fact that Eric Kripke would take this very recent interpretation of Batman and apply it to him as a whole just tells me how idiotic of a writer he actually is. The notion came up of he should have a Batcave, but let's be honest, the Batcave would be a sex dungeon. What? Like, even the real Batcave is just this side of being a sex dungeon. It's really dark and there's rubber suits everywhere. It's not that much of a push to add a couple of dildos and then a weird urinal that turns into a face mask. I'm sorry. That's a really big push. The Batcave is a training ground and an investigation tool that Batman uses to solve criminal activities. Not even his rubber suits were literally just related to the 1989 and 1990s Batman movies with Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, and George Clooney. And that was only because it was a good way to mold the Batsuit to look like it had muscles without giving the actors a massive workout and steroid routine. This is such a stupid argument. Batman typically wears a slightly bullet-resistant, flexible Kevlar material with heavy Kevlar padding behind the bat symbol. It's not rubber. What the heck is this guy talking about? Oh, it's just this side of the sex dungeon, a cave where there's a supercomputer and a bunch of tools and gadgets used to fight against evil criminals with mementos to those criminals, like the T-Rex and the giant penny. Mr. Freeze's freeze gun. A couple other tools in there that are used to show off his adventures. Yeah, of course. Batman's Batcave, which is used to help fight crime and as a base of operations, is just a different version of a sex dungeon. What is this guy talking about? And in the comics, that's a great storyline where Hughie goes undercover disguised as a superhero. That was a story that Jack had always asked us to do, so part of it, as always, be careful what you can ask for the writers for. Then, we finally had this Web Weaver character, and the idea of Spider-Man going down to be kink-tickled in the Batcave is just too good to pass up. I'm sorry, I just couldn't leave that on the table. What is wrong with you? The Boys is just an excuse at this point in time, with everything that The Boys has done. This TV show, where there has been people's heads being crushed under people who are sitting on them. There's talks of people having their wankers shattered by someone who froze it. People getting dominated in weird sexually deviant ways. And now this sexual assault that they're playing off as a joke between a Spider-Man and Batman-esque character through molestation. The Boys has literally just become a vehicle for the writers to air their sexual kinks to the world. At this point in time, all that the show is just a way of saying, hey, we have kinks. Come watch the show that we center our kinks around. It's a stupid, disgusting, pointless garbage show that nobody should be watching at this point, and I'm glad I'm not. Kink tickled. I'm sorry. This wasn't kink. This was entirely non-consensual. The fact that the showrunner's creator view is as hilarious and waves it off as some kind of funny sex dungeon scene is more disturbing than the scene itself. That's another thing. Hughie was strapped down on a table, being molested by a couple of characters in a suit that was described as having a horrible stench to it. On top of that, he doesn't know what Web Weaver's safe word is. So the entire time he's being molested, he doesn't have a safe word to call it off. He's just blurting out random words that equate with spider-like themes. So the entire time he's being molested and taken advantage of sexually, he's not able to stop it because not only is he strapped down completely at their peril, but he doesn't have the code word to stop it. And then there's a later moment in this sequence of events where the guy, Tech Knight, who's supposed to be the Batman ripoff, is going to cut extra holes into Hughie so that he can put his wanker into those holes. This is just nothing but disgusting sexual nonsense that is just an excuse for the writers to air their disgusting weird kinks. I would not be surprised if someone on this show actually thought that was sexy. I would not be surprised if someone on this show actually thought that that was hot. I would not be surprised if someone behind the scenes of this show, specifically Eric Kripke, was one of those people who was looking at this going, oh yeah. It's gross. It's disgusting. These guys, I don't have anything else to say. If nothing else, you should see that the leftist writers of this show writing this, it's always write what you know, right? You write what you know. You write what you know. And if you know one thing more than something else, like sexually deviant acts that are aggressive and horrible, you're going to write about that. This show is just an excuse for the writers to air out what they want to do to other people and to themselves. It's just disgusting. I have nothing else to say. This show is an excuse for degeneracy. That's all it is. It's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I'm holding back vomit in my mouth right now because of this garbage. Like, I really feel like I'm about to throw up reading this crap. Thinking about this stupid trash show. Gosh. Then I gotta call it here. If I keep doing this, I'm gonna puke recording this video, alright? I hope you guys found this informative, and I hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of the week.